Welcome to Roundtable Mindset, the podcast where we seek to understand and share different perspectives in order to grow and challenge our own. And we encourage you, our guest, to do the same.
Each week, we will pick a topic to discuss sharing our own unique thoughts and insights. There will be times when we won't agree, and let's be real, that's probably going to be most of the time, and that's okay. We feel it's important to understand that we can live in this polarized world and still respect one another and even be friends.
Well, Mahlon, we're back. How are you today?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here recording this episode specifically. I'm really excited.
Well, that's good because it's kind of a fun one.
Yes. But before we get started on our episode, tell me, you have some food for thought today.
I do. I was going to my favorite pop store. Just got done grocery shopping with the wife and went and got our drinks. And I walked in, and this is a regular place that I tend pretty frequently, sometimes multiple times a day, if I was being honest. And so I'm getting to know the workers that are there. And I walked in, and you could just tell the energy level was low, and there was some grumbling going on, and wasn't the happy faces that you normally see when you walk in. And I was getting my drinks, and I was just kind of observing, and I went to the counter, and the gentleman that usually helps me, that usually is, chit-chatty with me, just as like refills. And I'm like, well, yeah. And I'm like, how's your day? Oh, it's fine. And so I just kind of took a moment, and I was like, okay, what's going on? I can tell like the energy level's low. And so they're like, oh, we had all this freight that came in. We're shorthanded. The manager yelled at us. I mean, there was just like 3 or 4 things that he rattled off that just you could tell was just defeating him. Plus, he probably didn't want to be there, probably had a bad day himself. Who knows? And so I remember sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, as like cliche as this sounds, I'm like, I can either attribute to the negativity that's they're experiencing, I can do nothing and just walk away, or I can try to maybe lighten their spirits just a little bit. So I chose to kind of try to lighten their spirits a little bit. So I started chit-chatting more, and I was talking to them and cutting some jokes, and then they started warming up, and then they started laughing, and then another worker from the back came around. So I was talking to them, and then they joined in the conversation, and it took me maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And by the time I was ready to walk out the door, I was like, you guys have a great rest of your night, or try to. And they were kind of giggling, and they're like, yeah, you too. And I started laughing and, waving, and they had a smile, and I walked out the door. But that was my food for thought. I was like, as I was going through that, and I was walking to the car, I was like, wow, I wonder how many times or how many missed opportunities I had because I wasn't thinking, or I wasn't aware enough that I could have impacted somebody's bad day by just injecting a little laughter, a little joy, a smile here, or just changed my approach to them. And so I was walking to the car. My food for thought, Jamie, is, have you ever intentionally or tried to make somebody's day a little brighter when you've noticed that maybe they were having a bad day or they were a little upset?
I absolutely love this food for thought. I love this food for thought. And here's why. We have a local radio guy, like one of those morning DJ kind of guys. And he, part of his show every day is go do one good thing today. Go do one nice thing for somebody today, right? And this is a lesson I learned long ago. That's not the point. But it is something to just be a little extra patient with the guy at the gas station, or open the door for, the mom that's coming in with her arms full of whatever. This is something that I have practiced, and I've done it pretty intentionally. I forget, and go back to it, kind of a thing. But when I first met my guy, when I first met my partner, he listened to the radio guy, and it was a thing for him. Every day, I'm going to do something nice. I'm going to do something good. And so it kind of makes me think of that, like how excited he was to take the cart back in for somebody, and, stuff like that. it's amazing how doing that over time, how that really changes your outlook on people. When someone smiles because of something kind you did, feels so good. You know what I'm saying? And it's so easy. It's such an easy thing. So I love this food for thought today.
Yeah, and I wish I could sit here and say, oh, I do a way better job at this. Honestly, I can't tell you. Probably, 7 out of the 10 times I just go in, get my drink. I'm always pleasant. I'm always, someone talks to me, I'll talk to them. Someone smiles at me, I'll smile at them. But for whatever reason, tonight I just kind of sat and thought about it. I'm like, okay, I can either. It was almost like it was the first time in a while, and I'd say a while because I don't do this very often. So it was the first time in a while where I was actually making a conscious decision to say, okay, I can either just walk away, leave them the way I found them, try to help, or I could even make it worse. I mean, I could have griped at them. The pop machine wasn't wiped down. I mean, my favorite pop that I like was out. So, I could have been a little gripey towards them, but I wish I would take more time to consciously make those decisions, because just that little 3 to 5 minutes that I, invested into them and tried to, and again, it might not have worked. This time around it did. But the point really is I took the steps to try to help. I tried to lighten the environment a little bit. I tried to make them smile. And I just wish I would do a better job of consciously making those choices and recognizing opportunities when I can do that. And so that's going to be a challenge for me. So, the food for thought as it spills into maybe a little bit of self-reflection is I'm going to continuously make those conscious decisions that you're talking about and your partner is doing and the radio guy is mentioning. But I don't want to wait for the big grandiose things. So I'm looking for the small little things, like opening the door for people, smiling, whatever. But that is going to be my takeaway. That is going to be my action for next week. All of this week and into next week, I'm going to just try to find places where I can inject a little bit of joy, a little bit of light, a little bit of happiness into somebody's day. Yeah.
Well, and truthfully, I'm positive. I've known you a long time. I mean, a couple of years. And
40.
Well, and truthfully, I mean, you're a nice person. I'm positive you do nice things for people. But isn't it amazing when you recognize it and then seek that intentionality? That's when you get to feel good about it too. Like I open the door for people all the time, but sometimes when I just recognize, I'm going to do this so that I can make your day easier or I can make your day better, that puts a whole different spin on it for me, I think, is, then I know, then I'm conscious that I did my good deed for the day, that I did the good thing that I wanted to do and set out to do for the day. So I love the intentionality of it, because I feel like that's the magic sauce that makes it sustainable, I guess. So,
well, and one thing that I'm looking for is that I'm hoping that the more I consciously am aware of that, the easier those types of things come. Because again, I don't sit there and consciously think about those all the time. I might do kind acts, like you said. I might open the door, it might help somebody. But I think by consciously making those choices, I'm hoping that they become easier and more frequent naturally. So then suddenly it's not me having to think about, oh, I'm going to do this. It's more of that instinctive behavior that just kind of kicks in. Because I'm kind of, as I'm talking here, I'm kind of thinking through and say, maybe it's like one of those muscles that we've been talking about. And the more I'm using this, the more I'm aware of it, the stronger it's going to get and the more available it's going to become. So that's a hope.
Absolutely. Well, and truthfully, by making it intentional, it means that that's the way we fill our cup too. It's not about doing grandiose things, and it's not about getting recognized for doing those things. It's really about helping another person. And when you recognize that you're doing it, then you get the benefit of feeling good about, how you conducted yourself for the day.
As I walk around, and especially since we've been kind of doing our podcast here, finding those moments where you can start reflecting the things we were talking about and applying those things that we're growing from. And this was one of those times that I'm like, okay, I want to do more of this, because there was an element of fun to it too, right? Like it was, I was able to see them kind of lighten a little bit. Now, I'm sure 5 minutes after I left, they probably were back, in the thick of things, because I didn't really do anything, right? I didn't make the inventory lighter. I didn't take away that the boss griped at them. But what I hopefully did is give them a moment reprieve from all of that. And so I just think that's kind of cool.
You know what you did? You showed them value. And by showing them value, 5 minutes later, they might be thinking about the inventory and the boss and all of that stuff. But by showing them value, it means that they know that what they're doing is not in vain. And that's, that means something too. So I'm with you. I love it. I think that's, this might be one of my favorite food for thoughts so far. Because it reminded me of all those fun things.
even more than the saucy chicken bits?
Well, saucy chicken bits was good. It amazes me how you find inspiration in the toothpaste. I mean, like, how does that happen? I don't even know, but. Sometimes I amaze myself where I'm like, okay, should I be thinking this deep at this moment? I don't know, but it's when it comes to me, I guess. I love that. I love that violently shaking chicken and getting yourself a soda inspires you to be an amazing human being. That's all I can ask for, right? I mean, what more can we want than growth is good, right?
That is right. Okay, so today's episode, I think, is a fun one. Mother's Day is just right around the corner. So, Jamie, I thought it would be fun. And I think it's kind of, it's nice to reflect, but it's also nice to kind of appreciate other people. And I know the Food for Thought kind of had a slant towards that. So today's episode, we're going to be talking all things moms. What makes a mom? What do you appreciate about your mom? The hard work that moms put in, all of those things. I think I just want to take some time and acknowledge the women in our life who play that role, who may not be biologically related to us, biologically not our moms, but they play that role. All the people in our lives that kind of help make things just a little bit easier, and just take that moment, since it's so close to Mother's Day, and just kind of reflect on that. I think that would be a fun little topic to discuss.
Yeah, I love it. So I love how you talk about all the different types of moms too, because I think that there are people that we are biologically related to that we call mom, but there's also those people that we choose to have in our lives that play that role for us. And I love that. Well, and I guess, so Sunday is Mother's Day, right? It's just coming up in a couple of days.
Yep.
Did you know that Saturday is Birth Mother's Day?
I didn't know there was a difference.
Yes. Saturday the 13th is Birth Mother's Day. So at my house, that is something that I recognize. I send a text to one of my kiddos' birth moms, one that I have some communication with and some relationship with. But I also take the time with my kids to, just kind of recognize the role of their birth mothers in their lives and what they mean to me, and give them space to think about that too for them. So Saturday the 13th is Birth Mother's Day. And then Sunday the 14th is Mother's Day.
So already you're starting to broaden that little narrow view that I had of even Mother's Day. So again, not ever having to go through the adoption process, and not ever having to deal with, birth mothers or other sets of parents. I never even ever heard that there was a separate day that could be set aside to recognize those individuals. And can I just say how amazed I am that there is that relationship between you and the birth mom, that you would send a text, send communication. Again, in my mind, and it's very, very removed. So we're talking shows and stories and books, nothing firsthand. I just always thought there was no relationship between, the birth parents and the adopted parents. I just thought that's kind of a little bit taboo. So just hearing you talk about that, I'm already like, oh my goodness, my world is already starting to open up, even about something like Mother's Day. Well,
and part of that is because Hallmark doesn't exactly make cards for Birth Mother's Day. I've looked to see, is there something, but it's not, I don't know that it's commercially promoted like Mother's Day is. So, I do, I know a lot of people who have chosen to place for adoption, and also, some moms that didn't have that choice or didn't make that choice willingly. And so, I think Mother's Day is it can be kind of a sticky thing at my house. Just because my kids both have two moms. They have two people that they care about and that have played a role in their lives. And so that's it. It can be kind of a hard holiday at my house sometimes.
Well, and again, I have a feeling that when I look back at all my Mother's Day that I, celebrate with my mom and I celebrate with my wife as, the mother of my kids, pretty vanilla when I compare it to having to do that with other people. It's like, again, in a million years, I never would have even thought about that avenue. So that is very interesting, Jamie. So if I can just ask you, because I think this is going to be a good segue to what I've been wanting to ask you, which is, in your eyes, what makes a good mom? You're a mom. What do you think makes a good mom? And when I say good mom, I'm not saying one's bad, one's good. I'm saying what makes a mom that, in your opinion, that's good quality, loves the kids, does things above and beyond. Some of the activities they do that go unnoticed, some of those things that go noticed because the house just doesn't run without moms. I firmly believe that. So, what is your take on that?
Well, I guess when I look back as a kid and I look at the times with my own mom, the memories that I have that mean the most to me, the warm memories I have are all about connection, right? It's times that I felt like I was invested in, that I was heard, times that were, just spent being together, sharing joy together, that kind of thing. So that's really, when my kids were younger, I don't know that was what I was thinking was going to make what I was trying to be, like how I was trying to be a good mom. It was really about like how I organized the house, how I managed morning and evening routines and, that kind of stuff. And I love that the older my kids got and the less I had to be involved in those processes specifically that were exhausting, that I was able to really try and make those connections. And so that's kind of been the benchmark for me as a mom, is how do I connect with my kids on a level that they, where they need me to be, and be that support for them, and be that safe space so that they always know they can come back for that. That's kind of been it for me. What about you?
And I know we talked about a couple episodes ago, the loss, and after losing my mom, Mother's Day kind of took on a different tone for me. But if I think back and I'm gonna talk about two different avenues. The first avenue is when I was a kid, and so when I look back at my mom and how she raised me, this is gonna sound odd, but the things that I go back to now are kind of those times when maybe my mom didn't have the nicest things to say to me because I was acting up or because I deserved it or I was being mouthy. Because I didn't realize it at the time, but she was tempering steel is what I like to say. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but like she was
That's perfect.
Yeah, she was making sure that I knew where boundaries were. She was making sure I knew how to stick up for myself and how to follow authority and how to speak to adults respectfully, but don't shy away from them. All these wonderful things that I use in my adult life every single day. And even when I was, a teenager, some of these attributes started coming out. I still didn't recognize that was all of the work that both my parents did, but specifically my mom. I get my fieriness. I get my direct speak. I get my no nonsense from my mom, and people that know her, they're like, oh, I can see your mom in you all the time. And those are the things that I kind of fall back on. And I'm like, I'm so thankful that I have those, because I feel the closest when I have those moments where I'm like, this is how my mom would handle it. This is what my mom would say. And I can hear my voice instead of hers. That's when I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, this is when all of these things growing up that I rolled my eyes or I stomped my foot, being just a little brat sometimes, not fully understanding the work that my mom was putting into not only me, but, all of her kids, and the wonderful lessons that she was not just, telling us, but living out in her life. All of these things are kind of what I remember about having a mom, and kind of what she did for us and the sacrifices. And there's things, and I'm sure it's the same thing with you and with my wife. There are sacrifices made that kids will never know their mom has done for them. And what I think is really great is they didn't ever need to be brought up, because it wasn't about holding anything over my head. It was about, this is what it takes to raise kids. This is what it takes for me to be involved. This is what it takes for me to be a good parent and live out my life, my examples, and make sure the kids know that when my mom made sure when she walked the walk, talked the talk, she did it. She lived it out every day. And that is what I look back now as an adult and think, wow, I was very fortunate. I was very lucky. Then when I look forward and I see the wonderful wife or wonderful mom that my wife is to my kids, and think of all the things that she's doing for them, and some of the sacrifices my mom made, that I'll never understand, I'll never know. I think I get glimpses of them, because they're the same sacrifices that my wife make for my kids. And some of the selflessness that goes on in the household, where, again, very unappreciated, sometimes being griped at, sometimes people are in a bad mood and they just take it out on the mom, or they just expect the mom to do things. It's amazing to see the love that my wife pours out on my kids, and things that she goes without so they can have, and they'll never know. It's so amazing to see. And she does it with a glad heart. There's no animosity there. There's no bitterness or jealousy. She does it with an open hand, because that's what fills her cup. That's what makes her love her kids, is to make sure that their needs are met well beyond hers. And it's really cool for me, because that's where I'm starting to see that's probably some of those sacrifices that my mom had to make for me that I never got a chance to see. I'm kind of seeing them through my wife, and it's really amazing.
Well, and I think that's the cool thing about getting older and like just living life, is when you can start seeing those things. Like, if you never got married, if you never met your wife, and you never had children, you may never have seen what it is that, your mom did for you. Or, I have to tell you, though, as long as I've known you, I didn't know you before grade school, at some point in grade school. And but I do remember visiting with your mom one time, and her telling me about you as a toddler. And I don't remember details of the story, because it was a long time ago, but I just remember, like, I remember something about a playground, and her, like, her having to chase you down on the playground or something. But these stories, I don't even remember where we were. We must have been, did your mom go with us, like, on a youth group thing once or something?
She drove us one time.
Yeah. And I feel like most of the group was out doing other things, and she was kind of sitting with the other moms, and I didn't go out into the woods to play capture the flag, because that's scary. But I remember her talking about, like, telling me stories about you as a young kid, and to have known you then at that point was probably, I don't know, 6th grade or something like that. I never would have guessed that would have been part of your personality. This very active, very strong-willed young man that your mom had described was not who I knew. And I know now, after parenting lots and lots of children, how hard that is. So I know, but I also know that you are a shining example of your mother. I mean, you kind of, oh my goodness. Sometimes I hear you respond to things and I'm just like, oh, that's Janice. There she is. So no, I think your mom is, yeah, she's a big part of my childhood too. I appreciate the memories with Janice.
Well, and again, the people that don't know my mother, if you were part of her kids' life, you were around the house or their business, you kind of got mommed, kind of schooled from her just because you were in the vicinity. Mm-hmm. And she was never shy that if you needed it, she gave it to you. And so, she gave it in the exact same way that she gave it to you.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't, there was no company momming. No. There was just how she did it.
No. And several times when we needed to be corrected, even if we had a house full of people, even if it was Thanksgiving, and that's right, Jamie, Thanksgiving, I had to be disciplined, and in front of probably 20 people over for dinner, they took care of it. And again, those are the times as a kid's lens, you look at that and you go, that is so embarrassing. I'll never do that. That's so mortifying, blah, blah, blah. As a parent, you're like, no, that teaches boundaries no matter what. And, those boundaries that were taught to me were to keep me safe, to keep me in line. But then, I didn't know it at the time either, but, I do have a strong will and I do have a fire in my belly. And, what they were showing me wasn't to, extinguish that. They were saying, this is when you apply it. This is when you don't. And I didn't even recognize it then, but my mom was showing me how you when it's appropriate, when it's necessary, and sometimes when you have to pull back, because it's not always about being right. It's always, sometimes the relationship that you're trying to have with somebody is more than being right. So sometimes you have to pull that back. And again, all of those nuances, I have example after example. I mean, if this episode was 3 hours long, I could probably get through most of them, but of just how that, that's what she was doing. She wasn't trying to put that fire out. She was trying to say, I love it. I love that about you, and it will serve you well in your, in the future. But let me show you how you're going to use this, because you can't just be a wild person and throw it around everywhere. And when I was a kid, to your point, I did. I didn't, I flew off the handle. I was angry. I said whatever I wanted to say to people. I was picked on in school, and I decimated their feelings because I just basically cut them with my tongue, to the point where I had several people not speak to me for years. And so I was a little bit, wild. And so I appreciate, when I look back at my mom, all of those lessons all the time, even when I didn't think there was something to learn from her. And there was just, me taking a consequence from her, or being disciplined, or them, telling me to clean up my room. All those little things, I look back now and I'm like, those are all building blocks into the person that I am now. And it's, very humbling to say that you can see my mom in me, because I now, especially after she's gone, all I want to do is make sure that my actions are, continue to make them proud. And so, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I wonder if, I guess something else to think about when we talk about Mother's Day, we celebrate our own moms. It's kind of the point of the holiday, but sometimes there's not a relationship there to celebrate moms. And that can make Mother's Day a little difficult too. Do you have any perspective on that topic?
Well, I can say that throughout my life, I've had the fortune to see how I've had friends and I've seen their moms, and you get close to them and you can kind of see a little bit behind the curtain. Everyone's cordial when you're first around, but you have a couple of sleepovers under your belt, and the real 12:30 in the morning, the real personalities start coming out. So I have that experience. Being with my wife now for over 23 years, I was able to see my mother-in-law, how she parents, and so seeing her as a mom. You talked about, I think at the very beginning, there's some people that are in our lives that maybe play that mom role that are not, biologically related to us. So I do think that this is a really good call out because, I have talked with friends who've had difficult relationships with their mother. I've talked to a couple of individuals that have, narcissist mothers who, and again, I think we could do a whole episode on just that alone, Jamie. But there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of tragedy that's going on between mother and children relationships, and so I think it is kind of fitting to also acknowledge that here is that there's sometimes Mother's Day is not the wondrous celebration that we're trying to do for our moms. Sometimes it's a painful wound that people will never really heal from, or they'll heal the best way they can, but because that's been, trauma happening to them at such a young age and during their formative years, they carry that with them no matter what. And so I think that's a really good call out. And I really appreciate the fact that we're stating that not everybody is as in love with Mother's Day as maybe we are. And we probably should take a minute just to say, and recognize that, that's not always a happy time of the year for some people.
Well, and I guess something too, just to pull in food for thought for a second, like when I think about in my circle, in my big circle of people that I know and people that I am acquainted with, there's birth moms or first moms, there's waiting moms, there's, dog moms, there's aunts who, stand in as moms. There's so many different people who, or even, I remember the first Mother's Day after losing my mom. That was a really hard one. The first one, well, I guess it wasn't technically the first one because the first one was like a week later. So that second one, like that first full year was a tough holiday for me that time around. And so, maybe this is a good time to just point out that maybe that's where we can apply some food for thought is to, think about the people around you and the women in your circles and, take a moment to just acknowledge them or do something kind, maybe invite them out, something to help them get through a holiday that might be really difficult for them.
Again, I always like these conversations because it makes me realize just how selfish sometimes I am in life. And, I sit there and focus on the holidays that we're going through. But you're right. How easy would it be just to invite somebody that that maybe this isn't the best holiday for them, just to say, hey, why don't you come out to dinner, or why don't you go with us to even get ice cream? Something that's not a huge commitment, but something that kind of gets their mind off of it. I think finding ways to do that is kind of a good call. And obviously one that I don't think about. And as I mentioned in Food for Thought, I need to become more intentional in my thinking and finding those opportunities. But I would never have thought of even thinking about doing something like that on Mother's Day or even around Mother's Day, even the weekend of Mother's Day.
Yeah. Well, and for me, so I have my mom who is no longer here, but I have a stepmom. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to think back. So in high school, there were warm, fond memories of my mom in grade school, but in high school, not as much. We didn't get along quite as well. There was lots of things going on for us at that time. And so for me, there's always an extra acknowledgement for me. So I've got, you know, my mom for Mother's Day. I've got my stepmom for Mother's Day. But there's also a handful of people, a handful of women who have taken the time over the years to really invest in me and show me value and give me those, I guess, those core memories of someone who cared for me and someone who invested in me. And so, you know, I think back to like a couple of my best friends in high school, their moms hosting movie nights and, you know, putting up sweet corn and, you know, taking me with them on a trip to Iowa and, you know, all of those fun things. Or throwing a going away party when I went on a missions trip when I was in high school. You know, those were families that were really invested in me also. And so I don't know that I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for some of those extra moms that I had when I was in high school and the amount of energy and time that they poured into me too, just because I was there. I mean, maybe it was something else, but I was there a lot. So
they started looking at you like Jamie, your bedroom is the third door on the left kind of situation.
Pretty much. Like literally, when you start being told, just come in, there's no point knocking anymore, then you know you probably have spent a lot of time at your friend's house. But
you are welcome. You were here more than we are, so thanks, Jamie.
Exactly. Well, and then there's, you know, for me too, there's some extra people that have invested in my kids, you know, almost like second grandparents to my kiddos. And those people, oh my gosh, some of the women that I have had in my life that have given so much to my kids, I can't even tell you how much that means to me as a mother to have people. It's like a deeper bench. You know what I mean? Like it's just extra people to love on my kids means so much. And I've been super grateful to have those come along too along the way.
Yeah. And I completely relate to that because we have a wonderful couple around here. You know, where we live, our closest relative is like 5 hours from us. And so, we don't have a lot of times our relatives can't make it to special events or they don't come and visit as often as we would like them to. And we have a wonderful couple that I actually, I met, I'll call her Bev, at work, and we became work friends. And then through that, we kind of, you know, started coming and hanging out with her and her husband. Going out to dinner, they would come to our house, and slowly that kind of changed into, we weren't just work friends, we were friends. And then somewhere along the line, you know, the years tick past, the kids get older, they start coming to, you know, sporting events or are interested in what our kids are doing. And suddenly we're a little bit more than just even, you know, friends. We're family friends. We kind of consider them an extension of our family. So we call them our, you know, adopted grandparents. And it just happened yesterday. My son had his last track meet and he was going to run a race for the first time. And these two wonderful people came. It's a 45-minute drive from where they're at, from their house to our house. So it's an hour and a half round trip. And they came at like 3:00 in the afternoon and they stayed in the hot sun and they watched him do all of he's normally a thrower. So he did shot put and he did discus. And, you know, of course those are, like an hour and a half between each other. And so you're kind of sitting around just chit chatting. And then they stayed even longer to just watch him run because this is his one and only race that he's ever been in. And they were just as excited as we are, and they were jumping up and down and, you know, kind of yelling and encouraging. And there was one moment that I was like, you know, we don't have a lot of family that come and kind of watch this. And that's really kind of too bad. And, you know, my wife and I are, you know, we can, if we allow ourselves, we can kind of get down in the dumps. But at that moment I was like, how much do I appreciate these two individuals just stepping in? And, you know, since this is focused on, you know, moms, she's like, you know, Bev is like a second second kind of, not, I don't want to say mom, but like a second set of grandparents. And it's amazing that extra support that can come in, and, that gives it to the whole family, right? Because there's times when I give them a call and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. I ask them for advice. There's times and they're just there for the kids, and their presence is enough. And then we've had, after special occasions, sometimes we've gone and had like ice cream cakes, and then we've gone to ice cream. So it's just those little things. But, that's just to relate to your story, just having them there last night and that little extra support. I do believe it like made my son run a little faster, throw a little farther. My other kids that, they were there watching as well. It was just a good time. And it's just amazing because I don't even look at them as anything other than family. And I just think the world of them. And so just to see that extension, that friendship that kind of grown into, that deeper relationship, and, talked about support, and it's amazing what that little extra nudge really means to you, means to your kids, means to your family as a whole. It's just really neat.
Yeah. Well, and it's so cool that, to be so far away from family, where you get some of that the natural supports that, come from being close to family. Kids really do just they need to know they're valued, and that just it's value added, right? I mean, that's just awesome.
I do have a question though, Jamie, and this is kind of be a little bit on the humorous side, I think. At least I'm trying to be. Okay. So if I don't come across humorous, know I'm trying to be.
If you don't hit the mark.
If I don't hit the mark, which it happens frequently. So put that out there. But I do have a question. I know you're a mom, so I'm speaking to a mom, and I've seen this happen firsthand to my mom. I was hoping that you can maybe help figure out why this takes place. But in my household, I can be literally sitting in the room, and my kids have to come across me into the same room that I'm in, exit the room, will search upstairs, downstairs, and bathrooms and kitchens everywhere, looking for mom to ask her a question before they'll even come to me. Do you experience that, or is that just something that's in my house? Because at first it's kind of funny because I'm like, I was literally right here, but it can get a little bit much, I think, for my wife sometimes, when they'll literally go out of their way not to talk to dad because they want to talk to mom so bad. And I find that super funny.
Now, here's the deal. You know that I'm all about the science, right? So if we look at this in a scientific way, you've heard of the sandhill cranes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So they go down to Florida and hang out there all winter, and then they go up north into Canada and hang out there all summer. And they do this every year. And no one teaches them this because it is burned into their DNA that this is what they do. I'm convinced that at some point, dads have said, go ask your mother so often that it is now burned into our DNA. Our children just know, go ask your mother.
There's probably a little bit of truth to that, but it's just so funny when I'll literally be in the room with them, and they'll scream out of the room for my mom or for their mom. And I'm like, I'm right here. What do you need? No, I'm going to go talk to mom. And so it's like, it just cracks me up because my wife and I, we've talked about it, and she's like, why do they do that? Why won't they talk to you? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I say no too much. I don't know what it is, but I just thought that's funny.
At my house, my kids know what to go to my partner for, and they know what to come to me for. Like, they know that he will say yes to just about any favor they need. It doesn't matter that he worked a long day. You want to go to the mall? Sure, I'll take you to the mall. Where I would be like, no, but you can go to the mall if you can find a ride. You know what I mean? Like, they just know. I think we filter that information out young, like 3 years old.
Well, that's very that's very interesting because I need to maybe change how I respond to the kids so they know that they can be asking me as well. Because again, it's almost comical how they will go out of their way not to have to ask me or talk to me. I mean, there's been times in the past, Jamie, they've woken Kim up she'll like lay down to take a nap. And they'll literally have woken her up to ask her a question rather than talk to me.
So, this is probably off topic and I don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway. I saw this video years ago, where this family, the parents decided they were going to have a yes day. And as often as they possibly could, they were going to say yes. The only time they were going to say no is if it was a safety thing or if it was just not okay, right? So, can I have ice cream for breakfast? Yes. Can I go to the park? Yes. Everything was yes for the day. And they kind of chronicled like the whole thing. But the cool thing is that, you know, and it really did make me stop as a mom and reflect how often I say no when I really could say yes. You know what I'm saying? So this might be a thing, Mahlon. Maybe you need to have a yes day and you tell your kids, anything I can possibly say yes to today, I'm going to say yes. If you ask for $1 million, you already know it's going to be no. But if it's something I can do or we can make happen, it's going to happen because it's a yes day. And part of that day, I remember like, mom let the kid dress her, like pick out her outfit for the day.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, it was just really fun. It was fun to watch. And our kids walk away with this idea sometimes that we always say no. So it's kind of fun when you can just always say yes. Always say yes.
Yeah, as long as they know there's just one day that you could do that. Because I will say,
facts.
I say no a lot. And sometimes... Well... I say no before I even have them hear, you know, before they even finish their question. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Nope. And again, we talk about moms here, right? This episode's about moms. My wife, who, you know, salt of the earth, I think she's a wonderful mom. She'll say, Mahlon, let them finish. Like, let them get their thoughts out and then like, let's answer them. And so there's many times my kids, I tell them, I said, you have no idea how much your mom fights for you because left up to me, you would do nothing. You would sit in a house, you would have nothing. And if your mom didn't intervene, but it's true because my initial reaction is like, no, you're not going to do that. And then it's like, once I hear the full request, I'm like, okay, I need to learn to slow down. But she's really good at doing that and having that ear and listening and then saying, okay, let's think this through. I'm more of and maybe I'm answering my own question now. I'm more like, no, thank you, goodbye, shutting him down, moving on. So maybe that's why they go out of their way not to talk to me.
You may have had a self-reflective moment there.
I could be looking in a mirror, I'm not going to
lie. Oh, that's awesome. No, I do think that happens in a lot of households. It happens in mine too, but unless they know they want a yes, then they go to my partner. So
that's funny. Well, I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but I was kind of glad that we were able to kind of give a little tribute to moms out there and kind of do a little talking. I know, there's not a lot of debate in this one because we both love our moms and appreciate the people in our lives that play those roles. And you being a mom, Jamie, and my wife as well. So it was just fun, just maybe kind of give a little bit of a tribute the best way that we know how to all those moms out there. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I hope you have a very happy Mother's Day this coming Sunday.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope you guys do something fun.
Traditionally,
I was going to say, or what do you usually do for Mother's Day? I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, no, traditionally, we try to do either breakfast in bed. So, I leave it up to my wife to say, do you want breakfast in bed? Do you want a favorite meal for lunch? Do you want me to make something? Do you want to go somewhere? So we usually gather the menu a couple days before, and then I make sure, go grocery shopping, get all that stuff. Then the kids usually help me make whatever we're going to make, or if we're going to go out to eat that night, just try to make her day full of all her favorite things. And, then we give her the Mother's Day cards and the presents, and we just kind of spend time as a family. Sometimes we play games. So I think her biggest thing is she just wants everybody together, and she'd rather have the time where we're playing games together or just being in the same room sometimes watching a movie. As the kids get older, as you could probably attest to this, it gets farther and farther away from those times actually happening. So that's typically what we do on a normal Mother's Day weekend.
Well, and I was going to say that when my kids were younger, I think a day away would have been really great. Like, you take care of all of the things on the home front and let me just go get a hotel room and binge watch TikTok for 16 hours alone kind of thing might have been helpful. But now that my kids are like grown, I just want them home. I just want to be around my babies. So I'm hopeful this weekend maybe we can I will even cook. I will cook and clean up afterwards to have my kids home for dinner on Sunday. So I'm hoping that's what we get to do. But
well, I hope you get your wish. I hope everyone gets to come home and spend some time with you this weekend. Yeah, it'll be good. So, all right. Well, thanks for having the conversation, Mahlon. I love the food for thought. Love that it kind of spills up over into this conversation too, when we think about those around us that this might be a hard holiday for. And I hope you have some time to remember how awesome your mom is. I know I'm going to spend some time doing that this weekend too. So yeah, there's always a little bit of a nod. My mom's birthday is in May as well, so it's kind of a Mother's Day always reminds me, hey, there's a couple weeks until her birthday comes. So it's nice to kind of stop and reflect for a moment. So I'm sure I will take a moment to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, join us again next time when we discuss a whole new topic with probably a little more spice, just because we can. Right?
It won't always be tributes like this. So yes, I'm sure the next time we get together, there will be a little bit of disagreeing and maybe a little deeper.
I'm just going to put it out there. You want to come back next week because it is going to be a little more spice than it is this time. So don't want to miss it.
I forgot we already recorded that episode, didn't we? So yes, you will want to come back next week. I'm almost positive.
All right. Well, it was good to chat with you, Mahlon. We'll see you again next time.
See you later.
Bye. This podcast was recorded and edited by Jamie and Mahlon. Music by Famous Cats. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please email us at roundtablemindset@gmail.com. Text or call us at 402-819-8999. Or join the conversation on Facebook at Roundtable Mindset Podcast.
And never miss a new episode by making sure you like, subscribe, and share wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for being our guest today. See you next time at the Roundtable. And remember, your opinions and perspectives matter and are appreciated, but might not always be shared by others, and that's okay.